Hey guys, what's up? It's Jules here for What Culture Gaming, joined by Scott, and if we're together it can mean only one thing. I'm about to burn the office down again. Now it's time for some news!
Hot dang, there's news, give it all you got. I guess it's time for Jules and Scott!
We're back in the room. Never gets, it's harder than these, that
You've got to get used to it.
So today we're talking about violence in video games, or more to the point, we're talking about the fact that Donald Trump has come up and basically said, we all know after the Florida shootings that he said that violent video games and violent films were to blame for the school shootings and other ones, or at least heavily suggested that's what we do. We're not getting on our political horse, we're just regurgitating some of the facts for you today. But the interesting thing is to note that he said that he was going to hold a summit, basically a talk between people on the from the video game industry to sit down and say, okay, what can we do going forward for the violence of video games and stuff like that, and is it affecting the youth and things like that?
So that came from Sarah Huckabee Sanders, which is like his latest PR person who does all the speeches and all that. And
his salacious crumb, if you will.
Yes, to some degree, with a slightly less enjoyable laugh.
Yes.
And so the whole thing with that was that he was this. Apparently, this next week there's going to be this sit-down meeting between Trump and all these different industry figureheads and whatever. And then today, the ESA, which is the Entertainment Software Association, just went, we've not heard anything about that.
The people who they should be inviting to the actual event to sit down and talk with them have not been invited to the event in which they're meant to be sitting down and talking.
Which, you know.
Now, we're not saying that that's that they're lying. We're not saying that didn't happen. Maybe it was just lost in the post. Maybe they didn't get an email. But it was one of those things where
we've all been there.
It's a bit interesting because it feels like it's stemming the tide from the actual discussion, which is, are video games an inherently violent source? Should they be banned? Should they be controlled more than other material? Are they? I mean, we have age ratings on games. We have things that like prevent people of certain ages playing them. There are certain games that shouldn't be played by anyone. You watched my video on games built to upset you if you don't know what I'm talking about for that.
Manhunt was brilliant though.
Yeah,
that was young.
That was the most. You played a game when you shouldn't have.
Yeah,
I played games.
And I'm not a killer. It's weird, isn't it?
The thing, and all the joking aside, I'm not a killer either.
No.
I wouldn't have a job here. I think they do background checks here. Learn that out the hard way.
Every now and then.
But this is the thing. These games are worldwide.
Yes, which that goes back to what the ESA said, because they pointed out, which is one of the most immediate things to come out of this after Trump said his thing, which was that all these games get sold worldwide, and yet the gun problem is in America. Yeah. And again, without going on about
other countries as well, very small, but mainly in America.
Yes, well, that's the ESA statement. They said that these sorts of games are played worldwide. However, the level of gun violence is exponentially higher in the US than other countries, which is a factual statement.
Yeah.
And so regardless of where you go from there, at least the ESA is already coming to fight, if it's going to go that way.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting things is that Trump's brother, I didn't even know Trump had a brother, Trump's brother, Robert Trump, is actually on the board of directors for ZeniMax, who are the company that own Bethesda.
Yeah,
who have a lot of sway in the industry. So if this gets into some weird, thorny sort of,
we could
extrapolated
see Trump
issue
versus Trump.
Potentially.
Yeah.
But part of this thing that came out from the ESA was they actually put out like a press release in response to the assumption that this conversation needs to happen again. I mean, like in our lifetimes alone, we've seen this happen pretty much every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
All the way back from 1993 when Doom first came out, and that was one of the ones that actually led to the ESRB being formed because games were thought of as toys, and that meant that Doom could release, and granted, a lot of kids could get their hands on it and whatever. That was one of the most viable times when it actually needed to happen.
I mean, this is the thing with Doom as its own specific case. The fact that it was pre-installed on quite a lot of Windows machines as well, thanks to a deal that Microsoft had with them back in the day. That was the thing where it was actually putting it into the homes of people who weren't ready to deal with that material. So that had more legitimacy than probably
that was a worthwhile thing.
A very, very important case to remember is the Manhunt case, where basically this young boy was killed by his classmate or friend, and basically they used Manhunt as an example to say that this is the reason why he killed him. He got something off of the game, and that inspired him. But this is the thing. This trial went on for months before somebody pointed out the kid who was killed is the person that had the copy of Manhunt. The other one didn't at all. And this is the thing. Video games have always been used as a scapegoat to try and get through to a different thing. And now, again, we're not getting up on our political horses. We're just making the point that video games themselves, we represent an industry where I'd say that Scott and I believe that does not mean that you are a sociopath. You're not a killer if you go out and play violent games.
Obviously.
Your mental tendencies, your upbringing, your situation around you, the people you interact with on a daily basis, your parents, your teachers, anyone who has an outside influence on you, they can make a difference. And if you don't seek help and if you don't talk about it, then that can lead to bad things. So I know that we're going to be talking about some other things, but seriously, if you are ever feeling like alone, upset, frustrated, or anything like that, please talk to somebody about that, because you're not only endangering yourself, you could possibly be endangering other people, and no one will think any less of you for saying that I am not okay. Okay? Right.
That's a very good point, well made.
No worries.
Point is, for now, well, that's also a point.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting things to take away from this, because I actually did my dissertation on violence in video games back in the day.
Oh, okay.
So 12,000 words of fun. And one of the most interesting things that I found was this research by this guy called Dr. Shabinsky, and he talked about the necessity to separate correlation and causation.
Right.
Because right now we have things where you can drum up a correlation between violence and video games as two separate entities, but there's no causal link.
Yeah.
And he also talked about how games can manufacture intentionally frustration. That's what challenge is. You have to manufacture challenge. You manufacture the way that we play, gameplay loops, all that kind of thing, surmounting something. Like, all that is intentional. It's part of the entertainment. It's part of the product. It's part of the emotional sort of value of a video game to a big degree of why they're so popular. But that doesn't mean that there's a causal link into changing someone's personality towards violent tendencies. That ties back into everything that you said about the wider cultural manifestations of the way that we live. You could totally argue that games are part of that, but in as much as a violent news report or whatever.
That's the thing. To say that they are the cause of it is wrong.
Yes.
To say that it can be a causality, a factor within that, you can say that. If a person is obsessive about something and takes on the mannerisms and things like that, that can happen with books, with movies. Obviously, we've had the killing of John Lennon and things like that.
Literally, I was going to say that.
There you go.
It's
things like that. Things like that can influence you, but as the US government is stating, video games being one of the sole causes of violence within teenagers and young people is just simply not true. And it's very interesting to see this botch of the trying to get a meeting together and not inviting people who might be able to defend the case of video games properly, not even being invited to the party.
Well, that's the thing. The only way this conversation gets to go forward is if the ESA do get involved. But it's one of those things that it's been put out there. Obviously, like, it was said as part of a press briefing, and then the assumption is that now Trump himself's going to have this sit-down meeting with members of the ESA, and who knows how that's going to go. Some things like his brother play into that. But it's just history dictates all the research that's been put into this, whether it's the 20 or 25 years of psychological research as to the effects of video games, or just like you said, the literal, what would feel like common sense as to one specific thing does not cause. We're not all killers. No. Therefore, video games as a mass-produced product are not to blame by themselves.
Yeah, it's always a tough one, because I know that there are going to be people in the comment section who probably disagree with us. I know that there will be. They'll say that it's, something can influence people and things like that. But it's just one of those things where it seems like Trump's administration is spinning the wheels because they don't want to move the conversation forward on talking about the control of gun laws. They would rather look like they're being proactive in different mediums by going for a different medium.
It's such an old debate as well. It's something that's quite easy to tap into, and immediately there's a lot of people who've been through these debates before and remember them. And so whatever, if you're going to tap into older mentalities, it's like, I remember that when that was a thing and it didn't get solved, so let's do it again.
Now, I just want to make our final point, make it crystal clear that we are not having a go at Trump himself or anything like that, or his administration. There were shootings under different presidencies. There were shootings under different allegiances between Democrat and Republic. So we're not saying that it's that. We're just saying that it's a problem within America itself, maybe, that there is something that needs to be changed there. That is up to you guys, the Americans out there, not us. We're just stating what's going on here, or as perceived by us Brits. Let us know down in the comment section below where you fall on this argument, and please try and keep it respectful in the comments, because it's not a fun subject. It's not a fun subject to talk about gun violence and things like that. So just try and keep it respectful. And as always, I've been Jules.
I've been Scott.
And we'll see you soon.